So when we critique presentations, we're basically looking at two things. One, it's still all about story, and every slide should tell its own story. Second thing we're looking for is the writer's discipline, that you go over every detail and see what belongs there, what doesn't belong there. Is the composition right? Remember, every slide is its own story. So the difference between just regular storytelling and presentation is, first of all, has to do with information. And that's that you can have a lot more with pictures. However, it's a double-edged sword because it's like reading a book. The pictures you develop in your mind. On the other hand, if it's visual, it takes away from that. On the other hand, visuals, you get to direct people much more directly. And that's why for engineering and for business, you do presentations. Also, those images reflect on you as a presenter. When we sit down and critique a presentation, there are three levels. One, within the slide, user experience, user interface. Essentially, in terms of the visuals, does it work? And then looking at slide to slide. Is there transition? Is there a flow? The next level is about your story. And the last is finally the overall journey. Remember, stories do two things for us. One, they have to be memorable. And two, they need to move us from one place to another. When we look at all the slide elements, this is it all laid out here, how it's laid out. Eye lines, when I look at it, can I see things clearly? Can I follow it? The font, the primary words, the color choices, the phrasing, and ultimately the payoff. Does the story do what it says? So when I say analytics, these are the kind of things that you are looking for in everything on a slide. Like, for example, this slide, does it actually work? Well, the thing is, the colors are so muted that it doesn't make you particularly interested. Fortunately, it's got limited keywords, so you can talk off of it. So even though you have a lot here, there are things that you can work on. In terms of slide technique, is it consistent between your fonts and your texts and everything else? Is it understood? Do you have any contradictions in there? Do you present like an economist? Story, pictures, numbers. And does this slide interact with you? I mean, this is part of the reason why I use animation. Does every slide exist as its own chapter? Is it easy to follow? Again, you should not spend more than 1 minute on a slide. You have to keep it flowing and moving. Does your presentation make logical sense? And again, is it memorable? Do you meet your objective? Do you have transitions? Is there an impact? And finally, is there a payoff? How technical is it? Your modulation when you present. Do you use gestures? How is your voice? Do you have emphasis? Do you have humor? How do you go about doing that? And finally, can I recall what you presented? Again, memorable. Here are so summarizing it all up. You have to think about your storyboard. Opening, the audience, who's your audience, how are you connecting, how much time do I have, what do I want to emphasize, and how I'm going to close. Which leads to actually putting the structure of your presentation together, which is the main points. Then you look at visuals. Yeah, no bullet points. Bullet points are bad. Does everything tell a story? And are you moved? The other sub-journey that you're going on, if this is about business or engineering, care, believe, join. Is it here? Here's an example of a presentation. Now, this was actually done by someone in a class. When you look at this slide, What's right or wrong with it? Well, it has a nice picture, but on your cover slide, it's got to tell somewhere who's involved. You don't know the team, even if it's just a team name, but there's nobody here. So there's no personalization. Let's look at what's wrong with this slide. Remember 5 primary words. They basically have one primary word here, why. Too many words, no numbers, the story's messy, and what do they have here? Bullet points. There's no transition between the first slide and the next slide. The dark background, the problem with the dark background, and they keep using this cobalt bluish gray, is it's gloomy, and it's gloomy for everyone. And then once again, bullet points. Next slide. They keep, well, at least they're consistent. They keep repeating the same mistakes, but at least they put a picture in this one to break it up a little bit. And once again, story, picture, numbers, nothing here. Again, marketing who? Again, you have to treat every slide as its own story. Where's the headline in this? You have to sum up your marketing in the beginning, and so then all of a sudden these have more impact. This is just a laundry list. Yeah, they're consistent, consistently bad. And competition. What is the story here? When you're doing something in business, you have to distinguish yourself from somebody else. So when you talk about this competition, why are you better than this? Remember, when you present a product, you have to differentiate yourself. And the way to differentiate yourself is either I have the best product, I have the best price, or I know the customer better than anyone else. And none of that comes out. What's the story here? And in terms of team, here's a great chance for you to be personal by showing people's faces. And not only that, but what a mess this is. There's no logic to this. There's, again, no story. There's numbers here, but nothing is justified. This is one thing they do want to see in a pitch. And they want to see the revenue over time. This is just one snapshot. Yeah, this is okay. And the thing is, summary and call to action. Again, there's nothing concrete here. You don't have to put a slide saying questions. When you get to the end, you just ask questions. Why do you need a slide for it? This isn't needed. Now, this one is better. It's got its flaws. But here's another pitch. Chem Mystery. At least they put the name of who their team is. Who you seek is seeking you. They actually have what their brand line is for their product. Now, this is a mess. They had the right idea. But they could have put a headline, this is dating apps are frustrating. And then they could have had something like this. Primary words. If you notice, the font doesn't fit the 30 point. The colors, this isn't perfectly aligned. This is leading down here. They have a lot of good ideas here, but they didn't execute it that well. And poor odds, arguments, that isn't that great. But instead of poor odds, maybe something more impactful, like the word failure. But at least they're trying to use word economy. They tell what there is, and instead said what is chemistry. They could have talked more about what chemistry actually is in the title, or the solution to your dating travails or whatever. But anyway, Again, this layout isn't the greatest, but at least they had the right idea. I have absolutely no idea what this drawing is. This is a good idea, but the font size is wrong, and these pictures make it kind of busy, especially you're picking the purple picture with purple text. Bad font choice and color. Now, this one, people don't quite know. The thing is, you have all this stuff here. You don't really need any of this. You could just show this. And the revenue model, again, you don't have to have all this stuff. Just explain what this means. Same thing with financial projections. People can read a graph. Why do you need all this? It makes it more cluttered. This actually, it got cut off for some reason, but they actually had icons on here that showed what's good and what's bad about each and every one of these things. And you find out that chemistry answers a lot of the questions. This strategy doesn't work. Again, what's the primary story here for marketing strategy? And it's too, and not only that, the stretching out doesn't really work that well. Remember the F pattern that people look in? Problem is you don't really get to the end. Same thing with product roadmap. Instead of doing something like that, they should have made it a map or made it a linear line. What's the story here? Showing the team. As long as verbally you go through this. Now this is what I don't get. You tell the team and then you repeat it again with somebody else. No, you only tell the team once. It's repetitive. And this is a good slide, asking what they need. And so verbally they're going to talk about what it is they're actually going to use. This you don't need, but there's nothing really wrong with throwing it in, your contact information. And this is kind of nice, except again, the font's too small, so it doesn't have the impact it really should. But I'm so glad we found each other. That's a nice closing. So it has a little payoff, and it also connects to what they've been trying to tell in their story. The chemistry is a way, by using gamification instead of just searches, for couples to come together. And so you come together. So they had the right ideas here. In some ways, it could be looked at as being repetitive, but what it comes down to is they needed to clean it up. And so you see the differences between two presentations and the things that they got wrong. So look at your presentations and see, okay, each and every one. What story am I telling? Is it technically put together? Do I exercise word economy? Those are the big issues with your presentations, but they're easily fixable.